Imagine paying $500,000 for a piece of land. Not real land with a deed and physical address, but a virtual plot in a world that exists only inside a computer. Sounds crazy? Well, in 2021, at the height of a digital fever, thousands of people did exactly that, and, in the process, lost everything. This is the story of NFT Worlds, one of the biggest metaverse scams you probably never heard about. A project that promised to create the future of virtual reality, sold digital land for the price of real mansion, and simply vanished with $100 million from investors. Behind the scenes of this story, we find a fraud architecture as sophisticated as it is cruel. Anonymous developers, grandiose promises of revolutionary digital worlds, and a community of investors who believed they were buying pieces of the future. What they received was a digital ghost town. To understand how everything collapsed, we need to go back to the height of NFT fever, when the promise of infinite virtual worlds made ordinary people spend their life savings on pixels. The company's black box reveals a calculated operation to extract maximum money before reality came to light. What the investigation reveals is disturbing. While investors bought virtual land believing they were investing in the next Facebook, NFT Worlds creators already knew their project was built on foundations that could crumble at any moment, and they did crumble. This is not just the story of a failed project. It is the anatomy of how the metaverse dream turned into a nightmare for thousands of people who lost their savings chasing a digital mirage. NFT Worlds was born in September 2021 at the peak of non-fungible token fever. The proposal was seductive. Create 10,000 unique virtual worlds, each represented by an NFT, where owners could build unlimited digital experiences. The differentiator: everything would be built on Minecraft, the world's most popular game. The marketing strategy was brilliant and predatory. The developers were not just selling digital images, they were selling the promise of virtual ownership, digital economy, a future where their worlds would become virtual tourist destinations, generating passive income for owners. It was the American dream transported to the metaverse. The launch was a phenomenon. Within hours, all 10,000 worlds were sold. The initial price of $200 per world quickly escalated to astronomical values in the secondary market. Rare worlds were sold for more than $500,000. Total trading volume exceeded $100 million within weeks. But the truth was much more complex. Behind the scenes, NFT Worlds faced a fundamental problem that its creators knew from the beginning. They did not own Minecraft. The entire project depended on a platform controlled by Microsoft, a company that had never officially authorized commercial use of its game for NFT projects. The fraud architecture was clear. The developers sold ownership of something they never truly controlled. It was like selling lots on rented land, without telling buyers that the real owner could cancel the contract at any moment. The clock was ticking, but investors did not know it. For months, NFT Worlds kept the illusion running. Developers released updates, organized virtual events, and promised revolutionary integrations. They created their own token, WRLD, which would be the official currency of virtual worlds. Investors believed they were participating in building the future of the internet. The community grew rapidly. Thousands of people bought worlds, created projects, invested time and money, developing digital experiences. Some owners spent tens of thousands of additional dollars hiring developers to build cities, games, and experiences in their virtual worlds. Blockchain records tell a clear story. NFT Worlds creators profited on multiple fronts. Besides the initial sale of NFTs, they maintained a significant percentage of WRLD tokens, which appreciated along with the project. They also charged transaction fees and sold additional services to the community. But in July 2022, the House of Cards began to collapse. Microsoft announced changes to its Minecraft usage policies, explicitly prohibiting the integration of NFTs and blockchain with the game. The decision was clear and definitive. Any project using Minecraft for commercial purposes related to NFTs would be banned. NFT Worlds' reaction was revealing. Instead of admitting the project was dead, developers promised a migration to their own platform. They announced they were developing a completely new game, independent of Minecraft, where NFT Worlds would continue functioning. It was an impossible promise to fulfill. Recreating Minecraft's complexity and popularity from scratch would require years of development and hundreds of millions of dollars. But developers continued selling hope while NFT values plummeted. The collapse was swift and brutal. After Microsoft's announcement, NFT world values plummeted 90% within days. Worlds that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars were now worth less than the price of dinner. The WRLD token lost 98% of its value and never recovered. The promise of migration to their own platform proved to be a mirage. Months passed without significant updates. Development of the new game advanced at glacial pace, when it advanced at all. The community began to realize they had been deceived. Independent investigations revealed disturbing details about NFT Worlds creators. The main developers maintained largely anonymous identities, making any legal accountability difficult. They had extracted millions of dollars from the project through token sales and fees, but invested a minimal fraction in actual development of the promised platform. The cruelest part is that many investors were not wealthy speculators. They were ordinary people who believed they were investing in the digital future. Teachers who spent their savings, young professionals who used their house down payment money, retirees who invested part of their pension, all chasing the dream of metaverse ownership. The silent bleeding from investor coffers continued for months. While the project withered, creators maintained the narrative that they were building the future. They organized community calls, posted vague updates on social media, and promised that big announcements were coming. But the future never came. NFT Worlds became exactly what its name suggests: a fantasy world that existed only in the imagination of those who believed in it. Today, almost 4 years after its meteoric launch, NFT Worlds is a digital ghost town. The NFT Worlds still technically exist on the blockchain, but they are useless. There is no game, no platform, no experience. They are just digital records of a broken promise, property certificates for land in a world that was never built, and the architects of disaster? The original developers gradually disappeared, like ghosts in the machine. Some, without any remorse, migrated to new cryptocurrency projects. Others simply became anonymous avatars again, dissolving into internet obscurity, with full pockets and empty consciences. NFT Worlds was not an isolated case. It exploded within a speculative bubble that included projects like Sandbox and Decentraland, which, although built on their own platforms, also faced criticism for their grandiose promises and often empty realities. However, the NFT Worlds case was different and more cruel. It was not just a bet that went wrong, it was a bet built on a foundation that never belonged to them. The lesson is clear. When someone is selling the future, especially a future that depends on technologies and platforms they do not control, be suspicious. The metaverse may arrive someday, but it will not be built by dream sellers who disappear with other people's money. The story of NFT Worlds reveals an uncomfortable truth about human nature and technology. When confronted with the possibility of easy wealth and ownership in the digital future, thousands of people suspended skepticism and embraced fantasy, and paid dearly for it. But let there be no doubt, this was not a simple business failure. The evidence points to a calculated operation to extract maximum value from investors before inevitable reality imposed itself. The creators knew from the beginning that they depended on Microsoft's goodwill. They knew they were selling something they did not control. NFT World's legacy goes beyond the $100 million lost. It destroyed an entire generation of investors' trust in metaverse projects. It created financial and emotional scars that will take years to heal. And it established a dangerous precedent about how projects can raise fortunes selling empty promises. But perhaps the most important lesson is about the difference between real innovation and marketing disguised as revolution. True innovation builds value before extracting it. It solves real problems before creating new ones. And, most importantly, it takes responsibility for results. NFT Worlds did the opposite in every aspect, and for that reason, its virtual worlds will forever remain as digital monuments to human greed and collective gullibility. The Metaverse, the real one, may still become reality someday, but it will not be sold in lots of empty promises. It will be built not by mirage sellers, but by reality architects, with transparency, accountability, and, above all, respect for those who dare to believe in the future. Until then, the digital ghost towns of NFT worlds will remain as silent reminders that not every virtual world is worth inhabiting. If you want to know more stories about the corporate world's backstage and the scandals that shook the market, subscribe to the Dark Suits channel. Here, we investigate the truth behind major corporate collapses.